welcome to day 10 of the program. Our scale of the day is B flat major. B flat major has two flats, B flat and E flat, and those scale intervals are B flat is the tonic, C is major second, D is major third, E flat is perfect fourth, F is perfect fifth, G is our major sixth, A is major seventh, and B flat is the perfect eighth. The scale degrees is the tonic is B flat, supertonic is C, mediant is D, subdominant is E flat, F is dominant, submediant is G, leading tone is A, and our octave is B flat. The triad chords of the scale is our one chord is B flat major, B flat D F. Our second chord is C minor, C, E flat G. Our third chord is D minor, D, F, A. Our fourth chord is E flat major, E flat, G, and B flat. Our fifth chord is F major, F, A, C. Our sixth chord is G minor, G, B flat, D. Our seventh chord is A diminished, A, C, and E flat. So go ahead and try that scale, and hopefully you'll have a chance to try the triad chords as well. Today's topic is why is it important to be relaxed? So having a relaxed posture not only leads to helping our technique, but also helps with the effortless look of our performance. Just like we often have scrunched up our shoulders or our jaws tight, we don't notice the tightness in our bodies. Having tightness when you are practicing your instrument can create issues down the road. For musicians who do not take preventative measures, often the most common injuries are like carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, tendinitis, rotator's cuff tendinitis, golfer's elbow, to name a few. Speaking myself from experience, I did not focus on having a relaxed posture for 10 years since I started playing the violin. And after 10 years of having tense shoulders and neck, I developed rotator's cuff tendinitis in my shoulder, golfer's elbow in my elbow, and then double cross syndrome from my neck, where I felt it in my shoulder, my elbow, and my fingers. It was very painful that I could not play my instrument for several months, and I was just starting a music performance degree at college when this all happened. I had to drop out of classes and take the physical therapy for months, 3 times a week. 6 months later, I did heal a lot, but I still have minor symptoms ever since. So even though I did complete physical therapy not once but twice, I still will have issues down the road. So, even if music is something you are not planning on doing for the rest of your life, you can still have issues down the road if you're not being careful. So how do you take preventative measures? So the first one is to start with your posture. There are 2 positions, rest position and playing position. While most of us do rest position, we don't always have the best posture for that. It's super important to be relaxed as possible when in rest position because you're supposed to be resting. If you start in a posture that is as relaxed as possible, if you get tight throughout the piece and practice, it will not be as bad as starting off with tightness already in your shoulders, arms, and neck. Taking a deep, big breath or 2 before starting is a great way to relax your shoulders because you release your breath and you relax your shoulders as you drop the tension. Tension all comes from your neck. If your neck is tight, your shoulders are tight. If your shoulders are tight, your arms will become tight. If your arm is tight, your fingers will be stiff and tired, and that's the one we always notice is our fingers and our hands. Most of the time as musicians, we can't tell that the immediate problem is from our shoulders or our neck because we only feel it in our hands. So make this a habit. Always take a big, deep breath or 2 before you start playing your instrument because not only does that relax your shoulders, but it also gives our brain a break. Taking a really big, deep breath and releasing gives your brain a chance to reset and just gives it a second because our mind is always going. We're always thinking about things. We're always on the go, go, go. But giving your brain a second will help reset and then focus on what we're trying to do in the moment. So the next thing what you can do to prevent injuries is stretching. Stretching is a great preventative, and it's very important for our bodies, not just when you're feeling tired and tight. I will include stretches for you that you can do before, during, or after your practice session. And these are really good stretches. I will recommend them even if you're not feeling tight or tired. Just make this a habit that you're just stretching your arms often. Another way is to do yoga or exercise. So doing yoga stretches and being active with exercising will help your muscles not only just get as tight, but work on the underused muscles. So I uploaded a couple of videos for yoga, and that's something yoga really focuses on, relaxing your body, but also giving your mind a chance to relax as well. So I would just, start with that. It could be simple. It could be just one stretch, one yoga pose. It doesn't have to be 10. Just one. I would do it either in the morning or right before you start practicing. Another way is mental practicing. We talked about mental practicing the other day. Practicing without your instrument is another way to keep working without adding the stress of physically playing your instrument, because what else are you doing in this position? Nothing. There's no other motion that we do in life that has to do with this. So mental practicing, that could be studying your music, score study, listening, and mental practice, visualization. It can be engaging without being physically exhausting. So these are a couple ways that you can relax your body, and I would recommend, again, the big deep breath and stretching. If that's doing some stretches, yoga, exercising, whatever you'd like it to be, I would definitely recommend that you do something. So next we're going to talk about our composer of the day, Berlioz. So Hector Berlioz, in full, Louis Hector Berlioz, was born in 1803 in France. Berlioz was a French composer, critic, and conductor of the Romantic period, known largely for his Symphonie Fantastique, the choral symphony Romeo et Juliet, and the dramatic piece La Damnation de Faust. His last years were marked by fame abroad and hostility at home. At the time that Berlioz was born, France was at war, so the schools were put on pause and interrupted, very much like our time right now. So Berlioz received his education from his father, who was an informed and cultured physician, who gave Berlioz his first lessons in music as well as Latin. But like many composers, Berlioz received in his early years little formal training in music. He worked out for himself the elements of harmonies, and by his 12th year was composing for local chamber group musicians. With help from performers, he learned to play the flute and the guitar, becoming a virtuoso later on in life. When Berlioz was 19, his father sent him to Paris to study medicine, and for a year he followed his courses seriously enough to obtain his first degree in science. He took every opportunity to go to the Paris Opera. However, where he studied, score in hand, the whole repertoire in which the works of Gluck had for him the most interest and authority. His music calling had become so clear in his mind that he had it set to be accepted as a student of Jean-François Lesueur, who was a professor of composition at the Paris Conservatory. This led to disagreements between Berlioz and his parents that frustrated nearly 8 years of his life he was better. He still held on, took the required courses at the Conservatory, and in 1831 the Grand Prix de Rome, having received second prize in an earlier competition. These successes calmed down his family issues, but in a sense had little to do with his career. For in the same year he had finished and obtained a performance in his great score, which is also groundbreaking work in the 19th century music, the Symphonie Fantastique. So as he learned about the Grand Prix de Rome, the conditions of the prize is that the winner would go study abroad in Rome for 3 years following the competition. But Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique was one of his greatest work, but it was unfortunate that he was not able to follow up his great work with more great successes because of the terms of his prize and being abroad. So during his long Paris apprenticeship, he had experienced the revelation of two modern musicians, Beethoven and Weber, and two great poets, Shakespeare and Goethe. Berlioz wanted to bring forward the work of Weber and Beethoven and add contributions of his own. He also requested, for the sake of dramatic expression in music, a return of the master of the stage, Gluck, whose works he knew by heart. These three musicians were all, in some sense, dramatists. And to Berlioz, music must first and foremost be dramatically expressive. The result of his many journeys to Germany, Belgium, England, Russia, and Austria-Hungary was that he taught the leading orchestras of Europe a new style, and through them taught a new expression to the young composers and critics who followed wherever Berlioz went. With Berlioz's found appreciation for Shakespeare, he wrote a fantasia on Shakespeare's Tempest. And with Goethe, he wrote 8 scenes from Goethe's Faust. Berlioz returned to France after 18 months and forfeited part of his prize because of his impatience with the life at Villa Medici in Rome being unwelcoming. It was after the premiere of Harold on Italy that Berlioz had the astonishing experience of seeing the famous violin virtuoso, Paganini, fall at his feet, declaring that he was a genius destined to carry on the new musical traditions started by Beethoven. The next day, Berlioz received 20,000 francs, so to this day that's about over $20,000, with a letter from Paganini repeating his judgment, and Berlioz used the money to free himself from journalistic hard work. Berlioz composed the choral symphony Romeo et Juliet and dedicating it to Paganini. So we talked about Paganini the other week, and Paganini commissioned, so he paid Berlioz to write a piece for him. So the outstanding characteristics of Berlioz's music, its dramatic expressiveness and variety, account for the feeling of attraction or repulsion that it produces in the listener. Its variety also means that for those who are enthusiastic of one's work may dislike others, as one finds lovers of Shakespeare who really dislike Othello. But Berlioz also presents a particularly difficult of musicianship in being closer to the true source of music than its German, Italian, or French conventions. So that's a little bit on Hector Berlioz. Our weekend project that I have for you is to write up a plan of how your ideal practice routine would be. Please keep it realistic. I'm not asking for you to write, I'm going to practice 8 hours, but I'm just saying, like, if in a perfect world, what would be the perfect routine? Like, how many times per week, per day would you practice? Be specific. Like, for instance, write 10 minutes, I'm going to spend scales, 15 doing etudes, 25 for pieces, anything like that. Just be specific and write the time. And if you would do stretches, if you would do yoga in the morning, things like that you would keep in mind. What different ways could you practice? Would you practice anything orally, verbally, visually? Just really be as specific as possible. Also, with the pieces you are, write down the specific titles. That way we can share with other people. And maybe there are other students who are playing the exact same pieces at you. So that's going to be up on the Google Classroom. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow for our group call. So definitely complete that. So today's practice goal is practicing using the ways to relax your body before, during, and or after practicing your instrument, trying one of the 11 stretches, and completing the weekend project, My Routine. So that's all for this weekend. I'll see you tomorrow on our Google call, but I'll see you next week, and have a great day.